Ladies and gentlemen, let us all rise for the arrival of the Honorable Senate President and the Senators of the Republic of the Philippines.
The 27th session of the Senate in the third regular session of the 17th Congress is hereby called to order. The chamber will be led in prayer by the Minority Leader, Senator Franklin Drilon.
Let us put ourselves in the presence of the Lord. Almighty Father, you are our supreme ruler and source of every life and grace. We bow our heads with grateful hearts to give thanks for the privilege of receiving your unconditional love every day. We rejoice in this opportunity to work together in pursuit of the common good. May we see today's session as a way of serving you for your honor and glory. Lord, send your Holy Spirit upon us to lead and direct us in making prudent decisions. Bless us with your wisdom to enable us to think and act morally right and fair. We pray for open minds and hearts so that we may be always mindful of your will and the needs of everyone. Grant us the strength and determination to be deserving of the power and position entrusted to us as leaders of this nation. God, we humbly seek to be your good stewards in your many gifts. Lead us to become your living instruments of peace, justice, courage, charity, and compassion for the benefit of all our countrymen. All these we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. The Secretary will please call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Onasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Legarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Zubiri, Senate President Soto III.
With 12 senators present, the chair declares the presence of a quorum.
Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, before we dispense with the reading of the journal, Mr. President, we have guests here. We have 44 barangay captains of Herona, Tarlac, headed by Barangay Captain Alfredo Acob Jr. There are guests from Herona, Tarlac. And we also have with us guests of Senator Pacquiao, Liga ng mga Barangay ng Alyakapan, Cagayan Chapter, headed by Mayor Harry Florida and its SB members. And we also have with us the Philippine delegates to the 45th Ship for Southeast Asian Japanese Youth Program, headed by their national leader, Sidney Lee, are all here with us in the Senate.
Thank you. We welcome all our guests to the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal of the 26th session, Monday, October 1, and consider the same as approved.
Any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved.
Mr. President, maybe I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Before the Secretary proceeds with the reference of business, I was informed that Senator Lauren Legarda and Senator Pimentel, together with Senator Pangilinan, were in the vicinity when the call of the roll was being called, just for the record. So, yes, you may please...
Thank you, Mr. President. I hope it is, reflected in our journal as
Yes,
they were
please,
on time.
the Secretary will proceed the reference of business.
Reference of business, bills on first reading. Senate number 2036 entitled, An Act Amending Section 10B of Republic Act number 10160, otherwise known as the Charter of the City of Bacoor, Cavite, and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Sani Angara.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
Senate number 2037 entitled, An Act Declaring the Polytechnic University of the Philippines as the National Polytechnic University, strengthening it for the purpose and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Sani Angara.
Referred to the Committees on Education, Arts and Culture, Ways and Means, and Finance.
Senate number 2039 entitled, An Act Institutionalizing Industry Cluster-Based Program and Projects Through Interlocal Cooperation and People's Participation, introduced by Senator Paulo Benigno Bam Aquino IV.
Referred to the Committees on Trade, Commerce and Entrepreneurship, Local Government, and Ways and Means.
Senate number 2040 entitled, An Act Declaring August 30 of every year as National Press Freedom Day, introduced by Senator Paulo Benigno Bam Aquino IV.
Referred to the Committee on Public Information and Mass Media.
Senate number 2041 entitled, An Act Converting the Municipality of Manolo Fortich in the Province of Bukidnon into a component city to be known as the City of Manolo Fortich, introduced by Senator Paulo Benigno Bam Aquino IV.
To the Committee on Rules.
Senate number 2042 entitled, An Act Declaring August 30 of every year as Marcelo H. Del Pilar National Responsible Press Freedom Day, introduced by Senator Win Gatchalian.
To the Committee on Public Information and Mass Media.
Resolutions. PS Resolution number 908 entitled, Resolution Expressing the Utmost Support of the Senate of the Philippines in the yearly celebration of the World Teachers' Day on October 5, introduced by Senator Aquilino Coco Pimentel III.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
PS Resolution number 909 entitled, Resolution Honoring, Recognizing, and Congratulating Jesus is Lord Church in celebration of their 40th founding anniversary on October 27, 2018, introduced by Senator Grace Poe.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
PS Resolution number 910 entitled, Resolution Directing the Senate Committee on Public Services to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reports of by public utility vehicle PUV drivers and operators in various provinces of the country that the penalties under DOTR LTFRB LTO Joint Administrative Order number 2014-01 are unjustly harsh and severely in excess of those provided under Republic Act number 4136, otherwise known as the Land Transportation and Traffic Code, in recognition of widely accepted legal principle that implementing rules and regulations must not override, supplant, or modify what is provided in law, as that would constitute an invalid encroachment by the executive branch into the legislative power vested by the Constitution in both houses of Congress, introduced by Senator Grace Poe.
Referred to the Committee on Public Services.
PS Resolution number 911 entitled, Resolution Recognizing and Congratulating Jesus is Lord Church for celebrating its 40th founding anniversary on October 27, 2018, introduced by Senator Sani Angara.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
Committee Report. Committee Report number 484, prepared and submitted by the Committee on Public Services on Senate number 2038 with Senators Joseph Victor Ejercito and Emmanuel Manny D. Pacquiao as authors thereof, entitled, An Act Increasing the Penalty of Overloading of Passengers in Public Utility Vehicles and for Other Purposes, recommending its approval in substitution of Senate numbers 1446 and 1521, sponsor Senator Joseph Victor Ejercito.
To the calendar for ordinary business. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, may I ask for 1 minute suspension, Mr. President?
Session is suspended.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, I'd like to recognize the distinguished Senator Antonio Sani Trillanes to deliver a privileged speech.
Senator Sani Trillanes is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I stand on a matter of privilege to raise to our awareness some critical issues that have transpired the past few weeks. First, I move to suspend.
Mr. President, we'll
Mr.
suspend while they're having a bit of technical difficulties.
Session is suspended.
Okay, partner. Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Unang parte na aking privilege speech ay ilalabas ko po ang isang issue na natabunan nung kainitan nung aking pag-issue ng Proclamation 572 ng Duterte administration. Ito ay tungkol sa mga kontratang na corner ni Solicitor General Calida sa gobyerno through the Vigilant Investigative Security Agency Incorporated. Si Jose Calida ay na-appoint bilang 48th Solicitor General of the Republic of the Philippines on July 2016. Ito po ang timeline based sa General Information Sheet submitted by Vigilant Inc. to the Securities and Exchange Commission. Noong April 4, 2016, si Mr. Calida ay president ng Visa or Vigilant Inc. at shareholder siya ng 60% of the company. The other 40% ay pagmamay-ari ng kanyang asawa at ng mga anak. Noong July 2016, siya po ay na-appoint bilang Solicitor General. Noong July 13, 2016, ayon sa isang sulat, si Mr. Calida ay nag-resign bilang presidente ng Vigilant Security. Noong April 5, 2017, base po sa mga dokumento sa Securities and Exchange Commission, si Mr. Calida ay shareholder pa rin ng Vigilant Security in the amount of 60% of the total number of shares. At nung chinek natin, nung latest entry, which is March 30, 2018, ay ganun pa rin, siya pa rin ay shareholder, equivalent to 80% of Vigilant Security. Next. Ito po ang ilan sa mga dokumento na nagpapatunay na si Mr. Calida ay isang shareholder ng Vigilant Security Agency. Dito rin po sa dokumentong ito nakalap natin, siya ay presidente as of April 4, 2016 at shareholder ng 60% ng Vigilant at kung makikita natin, yung buong pamilya niya ang may-ari ng the rest of the 40%. Next. So ito po yan, ini-inform na nag-resign na raw bilang presidente, pero maliwanag na hindi siya nag-divest ng kanyang shares sa kumpanya. At kahit mag-divest siya, ang kanyang asawa na alam naman natin ay kasama sa conjugal partnership or conjugal ownership ay ang naging presidente at chairman at owner ng the rest of the 40%. Next. So yan, according to the GIS submitted by Visa Inc. to the SEC, si Solgen Calida remained the majority shareholder. Next. Ito yung mga dokumentong nag-prove noong mga claim na yon. So yan, 60% out as of April 5, 2017. Next. Ganito rin, March 30, 2018, ito yung last document, last entry sa GIS, ganun pa rin, 60% pa rin yung kanyang pagmamayari. Next. Okay? So, ito yung mga kontratang na corner ni Mr. Calida simula nung naupo si Mr. Duterte sa pagka-presidente. Isa-isayin natin. Sa DOJ, 6.5 million at isang kontrata na 5.6 million. Sa PAGCOR, isang 17.5 million, isang 5.8 million, isang 25.6 million, isang 71.6 million, isang 2.5 million, isang 43.9 million, isang 15.2 million. Sa National Electrification Administration, 17.9 million. National Anti-Poverty Commission, 2.8 million. Sa NEDA, 6.8 million. Sa House of Representatives, 53.7 million at 42.4 million. National Parks Development Committee, 29.2 million, 10.3 million. So all in all, DOJ 12 million, PAGCOR 182 million, sa NEA 17.9 million, NAPSI 2.8 million, NEDA 6.8 million, House of Representatives 96 million, National Parks Development Committee 39.6 million for a grand total of 358.3 million contracts with different government agencies. Next, based sa PhilGEPS or Philippine Government Electronic Procurement System website, si Solgen Calida remained to be the president and contact person of Vigilant for government contracts. Ito po yon. Yang mga screenshot dun sa mga allegation na yon. So award, December 20, 2017, contact person, Jose Calida, the position, which is president. Next. Ganun din, sa PAGCOR. So, well documented itong mga kontrata na ito. Ito ay lahat na award after nag-assume nila sa pagka-presidente ng Duterte administration. So, DOJ, ayan, awarded January 19, 2017, contact person, Jose Calida, designation president. Next. Sa NEA, 23 September 2016, contact person, Jose Calida, designation president. So talagang pinakyaw niya ang mga kontrata ng security agencies sa iba't ibang ahensya ng gobyerno simula nung nakapwesto sila. Next. Ganyan naman sa National Parks Development Committee. So, January din yan, 2017. Next. Okay. Ngayon, ang claim ni Mr. Calida ay wala siyang conflict of interest sa government contracts even if hindi siya nag-divest. So, yan ang sinasabi niya na since ang nakalagay daw sa batas ay and or, meaning pwedeng or ito. So, pwede siya ay mag-divest or pwede siyang mag-resign. Ang hindi niya naiintindihan, ang ibig sabihin ng and or ay para doon sa mga, yung and na yon ay para doon sa may shareholder at merong posisyon. Kung shareholder ka lang or meron kang posisyon, so or ang sayo. Pero pag parehas ka, and ka. So, ibig sabihin, kailangan mo mag-resign at kailangan mo mag-divest. So, yan ang maliwanag. Pero, apparently, kay Mr. Kalida, medyo hindi maliwanag ang batas. Next. So, ito naman yung arguments proving the liability of Solgen Kalida under the 1987 Constitution and RA 6713, particularly on the conflict of interest provision and other pertinent laws. Okay, base sa ating 1987 Constitution, they shall not, during said tenure, directly or indirectly practice any other profession, participate in any business, or be financially interested in any contract with or in any franchise or special privilege granted by the government or any subdivision, agency, or instrumentality thereof, including government-owned or controlled corporations or their subsidiaries. They shall strictly avoid conflict of interest in the conduct of their office. So, conflict of interest as defined by RA 6713, conflict of interest arises when a public official or employee is a member of a board, an officer, or a substantial stockholder of a private corporation or owner, or has substantial interest in a business, and the interests of such corporation or business or his rights or duties therein may be opposed to or affected by the faithful performance of his official duty. Babalikan natin yan. Okay, next. Divestment. A public official or employee shall avoid conflicts of interest at all times. When a conflict of interest arises, he shall resign from his position in any private business enterprise within 30 days from his assumption of office and or divest himself of his shareholdings or interest within 60 days from such assumption. Ngayon dito, according sa Administrative Code of 1987, Book 4, the Executive Branch, Title 3, Justice, Chapter 12, Office of the Solicitor General, Section 13, Powers and Functions. The Office of the Solicitor General shall represent the government of the Philippines, its agencies and instrumentalities, and its officials and agents in any litigation, proceeding, investigation, or matter requiring the services of lawyers. So maliwanag dito sa Administrative Code na bilang Solicitor General, siya ang abogado ng lahat ng mga ahensya ng government. Next. Back. So dito sa Section 35, dinefine yung kanyang role as Solicitor General. And among the duties of a lawyer of a government agency is to review any contract na ito ay napasok nito. So, re-reviewin niya ang contract ng sarili niyang kumpanya. So, talagang maliwanag ang conflict of interest na ito. Ngayon, we have filed a corresponding resolution to further investigate this matter dahil hindi pa natin na-exhaust lahat ng mga kontratang na isara ni Mr. Kalida because ang information namin ay higit pa sa 350 plus million ang naisara niya. And it was referred to the Committee on Public Accountability of Officers and Investigations. At iniintay natin yung schedule ng committee hearing nito. So I hope ay mabigyan naman ng atensyon ng committee chairman, si Senator Gordon. Anyway, next. Dito naman sa incident involving the Proclamation number 572, specifically titled the revocation of the Department of National Defense Ad Hoc Committee Resolution number 2, dated January 31, 2011, insofar as it granted amnesty to former Lieutenant Senior Grade Antonio Trillanes IV. Ito yung proclamation na nag-revoke ng aking amnesty as signed by Mr. Duterte. Ngayon, just to recap, ang basis na sinabi nila ay dahil hindi daw ako nag-apply. Whereas former Lieutenant Senior Grade Antonio Trillanes IV, grantee under Proclamation number 75, did not file an official amnesty application form. Maliwanag po yan, as per the certification dated August 30, 2018, issued by Colonel Thea Joan Andrade. And another basis is the non-admission of guilt daw. So, and I read, whereas former Lieutenant Senior Grade Antonio Trillanes IV never expressed his guilt for the crimes that were committed. Okay, next. So, ito po ang isang video na nakita natin at inulit kanina dun sa committee hearing conducted by Senator Lacson, yung statement ni Secretary Lorenzana. Suspend natin. Send mix. Suspend natin.
Mr. President, may we just ask for half a minute, 1 minute suspension?
Si
Okay, Mr. President, I withdraw my motion.
Sa nagkumpirmang si Solicitor General Jose Calida ang nag-usisa sa mga papeles ni dating Lieutenant Senior Grade Antonio Trillanes dito sa Campo Aguinaldo.
He asked me personally by phone kung gusto niya to get the amnesty records niya sa Department of Defense at saka sa AFP. So we provided him. I remember that was August 16. I have no idea kung anong purpose ni Solicitor Calida. Hindi ko naman tinanong siya.
Okay. So, maliwanag na talagang naghahanap ng butas ito si Mr. Calida. Hindi siya nakontento doon sa final document at nagpaalam siya na kuhanin yung mga amnesty documents ko from Secretary Lorenzana at pinayagan naman. Next. Sige.
Bago magsara ang Ad Hoc Committee ng Defense Department sa pagtanggap ng aplikasyon kahapon, ay umabot na sa 57 ang nakapag-file ng kanilang amnesty
Ayan po yung
application.
application form
Ang
ko.
Ad Hoc Committee na pinamunuan ni DND USEC for Defense Affairs Honoria Escueta ay nakapagtala na ng 57 aplikante simula ng Lunes nang inanunsyo nila ang pagsisimula ng pagpoproseso ng mga amnesty applicants. Sa kabuuang 57 nagsumite ay 22 sa mga ito ang opisyal at 35 ang mga enlisted personnel, kabilang na si Senator Trillanes sa kabuuan ng mga nag-file. Sinabi ni Trillanes na dahil sa isinasaad sa requirements, inamin niya ang kanyang kasalanan sa konstitusyon at hindi sa dating Pangulong Gloria Arroyo.
Ang nakalagay kasi doon sa application form is a general admission of guilt, na meron na labag na kahit na anong batas, whether sa armed forces or sa revised penal code. And pan po yan, ever since hindi naman ho kami nagpanggap na yung ginawa namin napagpunta sa Ocod and sa Manila Pen and na natural na ginagawa ng sundalo. We are man enough to admit na we have broken rules in the pursuit of our moral cause, and we faced it. Like men, nakulong po kami. And the others were separated from the service. So, it's very easy for us to admit to that.
Sir, may regret po ba?
Ano ha?
May regret?
Wala po tayong regret dun sa ginawa natin. Nangyari na po yan. Yan po ang iginuhit ng tadhana, so to speak. So, tinanggap po natin yan.
Si Senator Antonio Trillanes III ay naman sa opisyal ng tagapagsalita ng Department of National Defense, Yusek Eduardo Batak, na isa sa mga prerequisite na sinasad sa aplikasyon ay kasama ang mga sworn statements ng mga aplikante.
Should be sworn to. It should be a sworn statement. So meron tayong mga legal officers who will take the sworn statements. So that will be the final phase of the application itself. Now, when the application has been forwarded to the committee processes it. So unless it is a very unusual situation, then that's the only time that the committee will convene and deliberate on a particular case. However, there's still a requirement that if and when the application has been accepted, there is a 15-day allocation for any opposition to be filed against that particular application.
Si Undersecretary Eduardo Batak, RH 911, Bing Formento ng DCRH Nationwide.
So maliwanag po, dito sa video na ito, na nag-apply ako, sinugpaan ko, nag-admit ako ng guilt, at ito ay pinatibayan. Kung makikita nyo, ito po ang affidavit ni Colonel Josefa Berbigal. Siya po yung nag-administer ng aking oath. At among the statements na sinabi niya, among the applications for amnesty which our committee processed was that of Senator Antonio Trillanes IV, which was filed on January 5, 2011. I know that Senator Trillanes filed this amnesty application because I was the one who personally received Senator Trillanes' amnesty application on January 5, 2011. Before accepting his application, I asked Senator Trillanes to read the pre-printed statement contained therein, making a general statement or general admission of his guilt for his alleged offenses before asking him to take his oath for the said amnesty application. Next. After studying the application, the committee found Senator Trillanes' amnesty application to be in order, complete, and in compliance with all of the requirements of Proclamation Number 75, Series of 2010, as well as its implementing rules, particularly DND Amnesty Committee Circular Number 1, dated December 21, 2010. The rules and procedure in the processing of amnesty applications pursuant to Proclamation Number 75, Series of 2010. Thus, the DND Ad Hoc Amnesty Committee recommended Senator Trillanes' amnesty application, among others, for approval through DND Ad Hoc Amnesty Committee Resolution Number 2, a copy of which is hereto appended as Annex 2. Maliwanag po ito. At kanina, maliwanag sa hearing, again, na kinandak this morning, ay inaffirm ito ni Chief of Staff General Galvez na totoo ngang nag-apply ako at based dun sa testimony ni Colonel Berbigal. Ito naman ang affidavit ni Yusek Honorio Ascueta na siya ang chairman ng ad hoc committee na nag-process ng mga application forms. Ito ang kanyang statement. As chairman of the DND Ad Hoc Amnesty Committee, I conscientiously performed my duties in accordance with Proclamation Number 75 and DND Circular, and also strictly complied and caused strict compliance with all requirements pursuant to the same. As such, the amnesty applications which were recommended to be for approval by the committee, including that of Senator Antonio F. Trillanes IV, underwent the necessary and the applicable procedures set in Proclamation Number 75 and the DND Circular. Again, maliwanag po ito. Affidavit po ito. Next. Ito naman ang sample ng application form ng amnesty. dito nyo po makikita na nakalagay sa pro forma application form ay yung statement, and I read, I hereby acknowledge that my involvement, participation in the subject incidents constituted a violation of the 1987 Constitution, criminal laws, and the Articles of War. I hereby recant my previous statements that are contrary, if any, to this express admission of involvement/participation and guilt. So, maliwanag po ito. Ito yung sinumpaan ko at ito yung pinirmahan. So, yung mga naging basis for the amnesty revocation ay binasag nitong mga ebidensyang ito. Next. Ito po ang na hanggang ngayon nakapost pa sa DND Facebook. Defense Secretary Voltaire Tigasmin administers the oath of allegiance to the Constitution and to the Republic to former Lieutenant Senior Grade and now Senator Antonio F. Trillanes IV as the last stage of the amnesty process of the Presidential Proclamation Number 75, held at the office of the Secretary at the DND building within Camp General Emilio Aguinaldo in the morning of January 27, 2011. So this was the last step at dyan binigay yung aking certificate. So ito po yung Proclamation Number 75. Ito nakalagay sa Constitution, ang presidente lang ang pwedeng magbigay. Kaya ito po ang maliwanag, pirmado yan ni President Aquino. Siya po ang nagbibigay ng amnesty at doon mismo sa Proclamation 75, nakalagay doon sa Section 2, dinedesignate yung DND para magproseso ng lahat ng aplikante. Yun po ang role ng DND. Kasi po, para saan yan? Kasi on the hypothetical situation that 1 million people would avail of an amnesty, imagine nyo kung yung presidente ng Pilipinas ang pipirma noon. It won't make sense. Ang presidente pinipirmahan yung proclamation lang. Yan po. That will satisfy the constitutional requirements. And in fact, it was already satisfied. Kaya nga ako binigyan kaya dinismiss yung mga kaso sa korte dahil nirecognize sila na valid yung amnesty. At yung 15-day period kung saan pwede may magprotesta o magreklamo o mag-oppose ng amnesty ay naglapse yun. Ni wala naman ni isang nag-oppose. So ito po yung aking copy ng Certificate of Amnesty. Ayan po. So maliwanag, Senator Antonio F. Trillanes was granted amnesty on January 21, 2011 for his participation/involvement in the July 27, 2003 OCOD mutiny and November 29, 2007 Peninsula, Manila Hotel siege in Makati City pursuant to the provisions of Presidential Proclamation Number 75 issued on November 24, 2010 by His Excellency President Benigno S. Aquino III. So, ayan po. Next. Ito ang isang copy. Just to prove na ganyan talaga ang ginagawa, ito ang copy ng isang amnesty na grinant noong December 6, 2001. So, blinangko na lang natin yung pangalan. So, ang nakalagay dyan, Mr. Dugumon was granted amnesty on December 6, 2001 upon recommendation of the Metro Manila Local Amnesty Board for acts constituting rebellion that he committed as a member of the RAM SFP-YOU for his involvement in the 1987 and 89 coup attempts pursuant to the provisions of Proclamation Number 21 Series of 1998. So, ito, pinirmahan ito noong April of 2004. At ang mga nakapirma dito ay hindi naman presidente. Yung chairman ng Local Amnesty Board, Chairman Alvin Dance, Secretary Angelo Reyes, Remedios Balbin, Commissioner, Secretary Jose Lina Jr., Secretary Di Simeon Datumanong. Sila ang nakapirma, hindi rin presidente. So talagang maliwanag ho. From all angles, from all levels, talagang valid po yung naging amnesty sa akin. And therefore, mali itong proclamation ito. Ngayon ito po ang mga nakakabahalang mga issue. The proclamation is in itself an arrest order. Kasi doon sa paragraph 2, the armed forces of the Philippines and the Philippine National Police are ordered to employ all lawful means to apprehend former Lieutenant Senior Grade Antonio Trillanes so that he can be recommended to the detention facility where he had been incarcerated for him to stand trial for the crimes he is charged with. Itong proclamation is an arrest order. So according nga sa mga law experts, this proclamation is presumed to be unconstitutional because on its face you can see that it infringes on a fundamental freedom, which is the which is the right of a person, whether he is a senator or a tricycle driver, to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. So ito importante ito kasi merong mga argumento na the proclamation is presumed valid unless otherwise stated by the Supreme Court. Mali po yun kasi again, hypothetical situation, gumawa ng proclamation ang presidente at isulat niya na arestuhin lahat ng media practitioners. At pinaguhuli nga. Ngayon, pag may nagreklamo, ang sasabihin, hindi, valid yung proclamation until proven otherwise by the Supreme Court. Hindi po ganon. Meron pong mga Supreme Court jurisprudence na nagsasabi na pagka ang proclamation on its face would violate the Bill of Rights and infringes on fundamental freedoms, hindi ang presumption dito ay unconstitutional and therefore invalid. Kaya hindi ito dapat tinutupad. And for that, I credit the Senate President for doing so and not giving it the validity that it pretended to have. Next. Ito yung mga major issues na sana po bilang Senado as a body ay kailangan natin ma-concern tayo. Unang-una, the proclamation is basically an arrest order as I showed earlier. Number 2, an amnesty cannot be revoked, more so that it cannot be revoked unilaterally by any sitting president. It will set a bad precedent and nobody will trust us anymore in the future. So it's very instrumental as a peace policy. Number 3, a missing application form should not be used as a basis to void the final public document, as there should be a presumption of regularity on the issuance of the said document. This will not only apply dito sa certificate of amnesty, it will also apply even sa passport or sa driver's license or kahit na anong final document na meron tayo. Kasi it will not make sense na haharangin tayo ng MMDA. For example, hingin yung lisensya. Pag binigay mo yung lisensya, asan yung application form mo? Natural, hindi mo makikita yun. Kasi nobody keeps an application form. Walang ganyan. Walang binibigay. Walang kopyang sinusole sa mga aplikante. Even sa mag-open ka ng bank account, yung mga signature cards na pinirmahan mo, hindi mo yan nadadala. Kasi it won't make sense. Number 4, a president has no power to reverse a final ruling made by the judiciary. Dahil pumapasok na siya sa teritoryo ng hudikatura. Meron po tayong system of separation of powers, limited ang kanyang poder. Gayon din, itong regional trial court judge or any judge has no power to reverse a final ruling made on any case based on a mere motion by the prosecution. Kasi po ang nangyari dun sa branch 150, nag-motion yung prosecution na pabuksan yung kaso, binuksan naman. Alam nyo ho, unless ito ay ma-reverse ng Korte Suprema, it will set again a very bad precedent. Why? Because no final ruling in any case, whether it's a land case or an annulment case, will be made final. Kasi pwedeng pabuksan lang. Mag-motion lang yung prosecutor at pwede nang buksan. So, these issues are very alarming. It will destroy basically the various institutions of our government. So, sana po ay makiisa at some point yung ating mga kasamahan para maging interveners sa Korte Suprema para maresolbahan ito at maliwanagan tayo once and for all. Kasi sinasabi ko nga, itong mga nangyayari ngayon ay maaring gawin in the future. Kung magkakapersonalan ang labanan nito, buti kung forever nakaupo ang isang diktador. Hindi po, nawawala at nawawala sila eh. So, in the meantime, hindi pwedeng hayaan na sirain yung mga jurisprudence na ating bansa. So, yan lang po ang aking... ito po pala. Hindi po ito ang kauna-unahang ginawa nitong Duterte administration para hanapan ako ng kaso o gawan ako ng kaso. Itong... itong issue na ito noong January 3, 2017, pilit akong inuugnay ni former Secretary of Justice Aguirre na may kinalaman daw ako sa isang saksakan dun sa Bilibid. Kahit na eventually ito ay napawalang bisa ng CIDG, talagang gagawa at gagawa lang ng kwento nang sa ganon ako ay makasuhan. Yan yung una. Pangalawa, ito na. Yung inimbento ni Duterte na mga bank accounts ko daw sa kung ano-anong bansa na eventually ay nung naipit siya, ito ay kanyang inamin. At ito na nga, ito yung pinakang panghuli. So pangatlo na ito. So strike 3 na si Mr. Duterte. But I am sure this guy will not stop. He will use all the instruments of power to put me behind bars or if not, kill me. But let me just reiterate my position in this democracy. I am a legitimate member of the opposition and this is my role to check abuses or anomalies, if any, committed by this administration. Ganyan po yan. It is an essential element of any democracy. So sana po maintindihan yan, hindi lang ni Mr. Duterte, kundi yung kanyang mga mabilis na nababawasan na mga believers. Maraming salamat po.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the speech of the gentleman from the Senator Trillanes, our colleague, our dear colleague, be referred to the Committee on Rules. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 1998 under Committee Report number 440. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Senate Bill 1998's consideration is in order.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the rice tariffication measure. We'd like to recognize, Mr. President, our sponsor, Senator Cynthia Villar, and to interpolate Senator Franklin Drilon, our distinguished Minority Floor Leader.
Senator Cynthia Villar is recognized to continue sponsoring the measure, and the Minority Leader, Senator Frank Drilon, is recognized to continue his interpellation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the good sponsor continue to yield the floor on this period of interpellation, Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. President, as we all know, our rice problem has two dimensions. First is making the rice affordable to the consumers. And second is raising the income of the farmers through safety nets in order to compensate for the losses on the measures that we will undertake in order to make the price of rice affordable to consumers. For the past several days, while we are debating on this issue, we have agreed on the removal of the quantitative restrictions, or the QR, and allow the free trading and importation of rice. Number two, we remove the regulatory authority of the NFA, and we imposed a tariff of 35%. Now,
Mr. President, we just want to make clear that the tariff of 35% is for ASEAN.
Yes, for
And
ASEAN,
it's
yes.
higher for the rest of the
Yes,
world.
we accept that, Mr. President, except that the imports from ASEAN constitute 98%
Yeah.
of our imports, and therefore, for all practical purposes, the tariff rates is 35%. Now, having said that, Mr. President, we are now, as we manifested yesterday, we will now proceed on examining the rice fund, which is designed as a safety net for the farmers who will suffer from the expected low prices that will result from the removal of the QRs and substituting the same with tariff. But to start with, by how much would the retail price of rice be reduced as a result of the lifting of the QRs and the tariffication of the rice?
47, no? 47. The projection of NEDA is it's 4 pesos to 7 pesos per kilo.
Reduction.
Yes.
Is that 4 pesos to 7
To 7
pesos?
pesos per kilo.
Okay, and how much, in absolute terms, how much will that be, Mr. Chairman? From how much? Because the prices went up to about almost 50 pesos
Yes.
in the past month in certain areas of the country. I just do not have with me the record as to the average for
Ano
the whole
yung
country, but
47?
on a reduction, as you're saying, of 4
40.
to 7 pesos per kilo, what is the base price that we're talking of?
I think for commercial rice, they are looking at 40, vicinity of 40 pesos per kilo. And then, of course, the NFA rice will be lower.
So, you're saying that we're looking at a commercial rice price of approximately
40.
40 pesos per kilo, which, as you have asserted, is a reduction of about 4 to 7 pesos. Is that correct, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Now-
Mr. President. It might be a little lower, but higher, but it's more or less on that range.
So about 10 to 15% from the present prices.
Yes, Mr. President.
That's good. This will affect this will be favorable to our consumers, but certainly would have adverse effects on our farmers in terms of the price of palay.
I don't think so because the NFA will retain its power to buy at 17 pesos per kilo. And 17, from the point of view of the farmers, is 5 pesos per kilo profit from their production cost of 12. So, but with this Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, we will project that they will be able to lower down their costs as soon as possible.
So you're saying, ma'am, that even with the QRs lifting and the substitution of the same with tariffs, there is no need for safety nets for the farmers?
Is at 17.
Sorry?
17 pesos per kilo o palay.
No, my question is, there is no need for safety nets in order to,
That is the safety net.
so there is still a need for safety net.
Yeah, there is a need for
All
safety
right,
net.
now,
That's why we retain the power of the NFA to do domestic buffer stocking.
which they have failed in the past several years to provide.
Because there is a choice.
Can I just finish, ma'am,
Okay.
if you don't mind? The NFA has failed to, because of lack of resources and for other reasons, to stabilize the prices because they could not have an inventory of enough rice in order to threaten or to have as a leverage against the commercial traders. That's the reason. So that
I think they refuse to really do domestic buffer stocking. Because I have talked with farmers all over the Philippines, and I was asking them why don't they sell it to the NFA? And their answer is, Mom, we're selling it at 17, but they demand a certain moisture content, and that moisture content can be abused because previously the NFA has two power in the buffer stocking. They either buy from the local or they import, and that confusion is really confusing them. They cannot decide whether to really support the local farmers or to buy from imports. But today, with this rice tariffication, they have no more power to import. So their mandate is just to buy from the local farmers.
Well, I beg to disagree that the failure of the NFA is because of their confusion as to their function. I think it's more than that.
What is your theory?
My theory is that the corruption in the NFA.
That's why.
So
They're confusing themselves.
It's
so
not
that they can
confusion,
be-
it's corruption, Mr.
Yeah.
President.
That's
Anyway.
why they're confused.
Oh.
I agree with you. They're confused because they want to do something else.
All right. In that, so we can come to an agreement on that. They are confused because they are confused with their mandate because they thought their mandate is to make money for themselves. So they are confused. Mr. President, all right.
Sabi po ni Senator Coco Pimentel, intentional confusion.
Yan. Tama siguro yan. Intentional confusion. Any case, Mr. President, let's go now to some detail on the rice fund. What was the volume of imported rice in 2017?
During our last computation is 1.3 million metric tons.
In 2017 to 1.3.
No, this year.
No, I'm talking about 2017.
In 2017, it's 950 metric tons.
All right. So 2017.
950 metric tons. 1,000 metric tons.
Can you
950,000 metric tons.
for
2017.
2017? And do you have also the
915 pala, hindi 950. 915,000 metric tons.
okay, 915,000 metric tons in 2001 last year?
Yes.
All right. And this year, what is the expected import?
Na-import na lahat, oh. 1.485. Tapos na.
Ito po yung total expected. 2.7.
Pero ang nai-import pa lang is 1.485.
Actual arrivals is 1.5.
Oh. Okay, the actual arrival is 1.485. But the expected importation is 2.5.
Okay, 2.5. is for 2018 as of what
The
date?
actual arrival now is 1.485.
Yes, I got that, ma'am.
And the expected arrival for this year is 2.5.
Yes, and the 1.485 million metric tons is as of what date?
As of September 30.
All right, September 30. Now, what is the expected importation in 2019?
Ito lang.
209 po, expected arrivals pa lang. Yung pa lang.
Wala po silang final figure, but the expected arrival is just 209,000 metric tons as of today. So they try to project kasi mahirap naman nung import ka ng import, wala namang shortage, di ba? At saka tingin
I
ko,
hope that
malaki po itong 2018, 2.5. This is big. Because from our projections, kailangan lang natin talaga 1.2 million a year. So this 2.5 is really to fight inflation.
And you're
And
saying...
I think this will be more than what we will need in 2018. So they don't predict that we will import much in 2019.
And not import much means our projected importation is 200,000 metric
No,
tons?
that is the only projected arrival yet.
Yes,
but-
that's what we're asking, Mr. President.
No, but,
What is the
you know-
projected, if we can finish our question, what is the projected importation in 2019?
Mr. President, this
Yes.
2.5 million metric tons is really big. I even don't agree with this, but I think they're making it safe so that there will be no inflation with regards to the prices of rice. And I think this will be much more than we need because from our projection, as a chairman of the Committee on Agriculture, we have studied this, and really what we need per year is around 1.2 million metric tons.
What we need is 1.2
Million metric tons.
metric
Kaya
tons.
masasabi natin na talagang merong nangyayari sa market na nakokontrol yung market. Kaya siguro gusto nilang mag-import ng malaki para dalain yung mga nagkokontrol ng market. But this is too much, this 2.5 million metric tons. So I think they will do it just to make sure that they will bring down the price of rice, and then in 2019 we have a lot of buffer stock, so we don't have to import much in 2019.
Mr. President, if on the basis of the figures that the good sponsor has indicated, the NFA will import 1 million tons in the next 3 months, October,
Yes.
November, December, because as of September 30,
It's
the
1.5.
arrivals is already 1.485. And they're saying that in 2018, we expect 2.5 million in arrivals. Are we saying that for the next 3 months, we will import 1 million metric tons?
I think they don't want the market to be controlled by traders.
Because we have never done this before.
No,
2.5
it has
million.
been done in 2009.
How much did we import in 2009?
2.5 million metric tons.
2.5, all right.
And it was done in latter part of the President Aquino's term. It's 1.7 million metric tons.
That's not
Gloria.
President Aquino's term. That's President Arroyo's term.
2009 President Aquino's term,
No.
and during Arroyo's term, and during the time of President Aquino, I think the biggest import is around 1.7 million metric tons.
Well, anyway,
It
to
varies.
assert that we are only planning a 200,000 metric ton importation.
No, I was telling you
No,
that
let me finish.
2.5.
Let me finish first, Mr.
Okay,
President.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr.
Yes.
Minority Floor Leader. I
Yes.
was just explaining
No, and I was
why
trying to,
it's
and I was
going
also,
down.
I was also trying to finish my sentence.
Okay,
in
thank
order
you. I'm
to-
sorry.
Yes. So, yeah, I forgot already what I was about to say. We are saying, that next year we will only import 200,000 metric tons. Is that what the projection is?
Oh, pero wala pa yung ibang imports. Gusto niya i-project. Yes, Mr.
We
President.
just want to reconfirm. The NFA is saying that they will import only and the program.
No, I'm not. On the line, it's what they have imported, di ba? Allowed to import, but they are reserving the right to import more.
Oh, that
In
is
the
why.
early part of 2019, okay? But you were asking what is to be expected in 2019. It's 200,000 metric tons kasi naka-line up na po yung 200,000 metric
All right.
tons.
Siguro, we approach the problem from another angle. What is the expected consumption of the 105 million Filipinos in 2020?
They said
2019?
They said that the projected importation in 2019 is 1.9. 1 million. 1 million in 2019.
We're asking about the consumption of the
The
Filipino
consumption
people.
is around 11 point... Lahat yun. Pati yung consumption. 11 point. For food, it's 11.8 million metric tons. But you have to add to that the one they use for seedlings, and sometimes the amount being used by the processors of other products using rice but not rice, and then the buffer stocking plus waste.
So what is the net then?
Net.
Yes, after, because from what I recall, all these
The
circumstances.
total consumption, including all of this, is 13.3
13.3.
million metric
Okay.
tons.
So now so that is the consumption, including those, etc.
And
Now,
the production.
what is the projected production?
The production is 12.8.
Well,
Projected yan, projected production is 12.8 million metric tons.
of rice or of palay?
Of rice.
All right. Of rice.
Kasi 20 million metric tons of palay, equivalent to 12.8 million metric
So
tons.
we're saying from these figures that you have indicated, we have to import already 500,000
Yes,
metric tons.
yes.
Not 200,000.
Yes.
All right. Now, Mr. President, all of these figures are not in sync with the figures that are indicated by the economists. First, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, in its study and publication, says we need to import 1.5 million metric tons. All the economists from all the studies indicate that we need anywhere from 1.3 to 1.5 million metric tons.
Yes.
There are even some who says that because of the lower prices as a result of removal of the QRs, etc., we may even have a higher import requirement of about 2 million. So the figure of anywhere from 200,000 to 500,000 is really out of sync with all of the data that are being produced in the rice sector.
As I've said before, based on our study with the Department of Agriculture, really we have to import around 1.3 million metric tons. But sometimes there's something happening in the market, or there's some calamity, or there's some perception that there is a rice shortage, so the demand for rice will increase. So, to solve this or to correct this, then we have to import more. But if you're going to ask me, from my opinion, based on our computation, it's 1.3 million metric
All
tons
right,
per
very
year.
good. So at least the opinion of the good sponsor is consistent with the opinions of the experts of the U.S. Department of Agriculture as an importation of anywhere from 1.3 to 2 million metric tons per year.
And if we are going to import 2.5 this year, then we will have a stock of 1 million. And if you add the 200,000 that is standby, that's already 1.2 million metric tons for 2019.
With the permission of the two gentlemen on the floor, isn't it that
One gentleman and one lady.
Yes,
Not two
the
gentlemen.
gentle lady. With your permission, isn't it that the tariff rate will determine the volume of importation? Because if you have a lower tariff rate, the volume will increase. So it's
But,
really dependent on the tariff rate. Meaning to say, if the tariff rate is at 0, then it's possible you will import
More.
much more.
Much more, yes.
That's
Maybe
in
10 million.
liberalized importation.
That's correct. So it's a function of the tariff rate.
Yes.
And there are studies that show as well, just to add to the, for the record, that at 35%, according to PIDS, it's possible that production will drop by 2.2 million and importation will be as high as 4.4 million.
That's too much.
That's according to the PIDS.
Because remember, our rice farmer will also sell their stocks. And of course, if our NFA will do buffer stocking, then they will have more stocks to sell. And if the price will be from 27 to 32, that is competitive with the imports. So I think we can manage.
Please proceed, Minority Leader.
So from all of this discussion, is it reasonable to assert that our projected importation should be anywhere from 1 million metric tons to probably 2 million metric tons next year? Reasonable prediction.
Hanggang 1.5 lang.
Okay, so 1 million to 1.5 million. All right, now.
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay. So how much would be the tariff collected, assuming that the exchange rate is 54 pesos to $1, and by the way, before that, what is the free on board price per metric ton from Vietnam and Thailand? Projected free FOB price?
Ilan ba yung 1
Next year.
million? 5% ba yun? Oh, metric tons. If our tariff, if we will import 10% of our demand, then we will collect around 11 billion in tariff. If we import less than that, our projected is somewhere like 8.8 billion.
Yeah.
That's why when we did the provision for the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, we rounded it up to 10 billion because that is the expectation of what tariff we will collect from importation.
Yes. Yes, Mr. President, my own studies and computation indicate about the same amount, anywhere
you.
from
Thank you, Mr. President.
8 billion pesos to about 16 billion pesos on a 1 to 2 million metric tons
Yes,
of rice.
yes,
So
yes.
the statement of the good senator is correct. I mean, would jive with what we have done, what we have computed. And this is on a FOB price of approximately $420 per metric ton. All right. Thank you, ma'am. Now, so we're talking about a rice fund of anywhere from 8 billion to how much?
11 billion.
To 11 billion. That's based on 1.5 or 1.3 million metric tons. Because at 1.5 metric tons,
It's higher. It's
it's
higher.
higher. It should be anywhere from 8 to
More than 11 billion.
anyway, we can place it at 8 to 12 billion
Yes,
probably
yes.
for purposes of our discussion. Now, under the General Appropriations Act, there is also a rice program.
Yes, Mr. President.
And how much is appropriated under the rice program?
7 billion a year.
Only for 2019, only
Yes,
7
7
billion a year?
billion, di ba?
7
7 billion.
7 billion. We can double check that because my
No, that
figures-
is, we have checked that
You have
with
checked
the...
that, so the
yes,
rice program
yes,
is
We're sure of that,
7
Mr.
billion.
President.
So 7 plus, assuming just the minimum of 8, that we're talking about a total of 15 billion.
But we're providing for a 10 billion rice competitiveness enhancement fund under the law.
Yes, I know, but
So
first,
that's
let's-
7 plus 10.
We just do it one by one, Madam President, Mr. President. So we have 8 billion as the rice fund. We have 7 billion under the rice program. And then, but the 8 billion is, but we are imposing a minimum of 10 billion.
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay, now, can the, now, the issue that is being raised in the current budget hearings is the absorptive capacity of the agencies. And this is the reason why the DBM has slashed the budget of many agencies. May we know the picture insofar as the DA's absorptive capacity is concerned? Is there any adverse remark from the
90%,
DBM on the absorptive capacity?
The absorptive capacity of DA is 89%.
Okay, so that's relatively efficient at 89%. Now, the 8 or 10 billion as the rice fund is automatically credited to the
Two agencies.
to which agency, ma'am?
Two agencies. The mechanization fund will go to PhilMech, and the seed fund for seeds will go to PhilRice, and the training budget will go to 4 agencies, PhilMech, PhilRice, the Agricultural Training Institute, and TESDA.
Okay. So,
And the credit part of the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund will go to the Land Bank and DBP.
so the Congress is giving up its power to appropriate because this will be directly remitted to the agencies concerned.
Yes, but we have an oversight functions according to the law.
Yeah, but an oversight function is just that, oversight. But in terms of the actual fact or actual
But there
action.
is earmarking,
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yeah,
We are earmarking the fund where it will go. The
Yes.
mechanization can only be used to buy equipment. We enumerated the equipment to be bought, and it will be given either to the farmers organization or farmers cooperative or LGU.
yes. Is it possible that there can be earmarking, that instead of simply a general statement that it will be given to the LGU, etc. Can we identify the programs and the
Beneficiaries.
beneficiaries?
Yeah, we have listed the 57 provinces which are rice producing. We have a list on how they produce rice, much they produce rice, and we have listed the 1,153 municipalities that are producing rice in these 57 provinces. So we divide it among them. These these towns where we produce rice. So we have a list.
Okay, that's good, ma'am, if we have a list, because then we are concerned about the decision of the Supreme Court about post-enactment intervention. But when we say divide, ma'am, how is the division? Is it on the basis of...
We
the
can do it
output?
equally. Every town will have.
Divided equally,
Yes.
regardless of the size of the area planted to rice, etc.?
Maybe we can base it on production, amount they produce. That can be an additional consideration.
Yeah, because it may be, just like the era, it is not equally divided, but there are certain
Yeah.
factors that would.
So the only thing I think will help us decide would be the amount of production, the amount of rice they produce in those particular towns.
Okay, so there
And
will
we
be-
have a list. We have a
yeah.
list.
And the list, will that be included in the law, or is that, where do we indicate that? The share.
We can make it as an appendix.
As an annex.
Annex of
Yes,
the law.
very good. Yes, we
Okay?
would endorse that, sir. We would endorse that it's an annex.
And that can be included in the roadmap.
Yes.
We are asking them to make a roadmap in 180 days.
Thank you very much. That would be good for transparency, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Especially if we include it as an appendix or an annex to the law that we will pass. Now, walk us through again as to the amounts that will be appropriated. Is it the tariff collected plus 10 billion?
No.
Or no? That's
They
what we
will
want to
give
know.
us 10 billion until the tariff collected will be at hand to be spent. Kasi alam mo, kawawa naman yung farmer kung iintay tayo ng tariff na hindi naman natin sigurado kung magsasaksid tayo. In fact, under the law, we are requiring the Bureau of Customs to implement the National Single Window System so that we make sure that the imported rice will pay tariff rather than it be smuggled. But I don't want the farmer to wait for this tariff that can come or can never come. So we indicated in the law, and the Department of Finance has agreed that they will give us in the General Appropriations Act 10 billion until such time as the tariff can replace the appropriations.
All right, so I understand, but I want to confirm my understanding. Let's say in 2019, assuming that the law becomes effective in 2019, the General Appropriations Act should carry
10 billion.
10 billion. Now, presumably, and let's theoretically, 8 billion is collected out of the tariffication of rice importation.
So the following year,
No, so wait, so in the following year, what will happen now? You have already...
and 8 billion from
and 8
tariff.
billion in the tariff fund, in the rice fund arising from the tariff. Now, what will happen in the budget in 2020?
There will be 2 billion in the General Appropriations Act, and the 8 billion will come from the tariff.
I see. Okay.
Basta every year may 10 billion.
I see.
Whether it comes from the tariff or the GAA, then it will be done that every year there will be a 10 billion budget.
And for how long, in the opinion of the good sponsor, should this 10 billion,
There is a amendment to the law.
is there a sunset clause for this?
Yeah, 6 years.
6 years. So are we saying that the rice fund should be funded to the extent of 60 billion, 10 billion per year for 6 years?
Yeah, but if we can collect tariff, then it will not be funded by the government. The rest will come from the tariff.
Because, ma'am, I have probably a proposition which you may want to consider. We just appropriate 10 billion a year for the next 6 years. And do not anymore look at the tariff rate as a source. Because if we only need 10 billion, mas sigurado po kung ilagay natin sa budget 10 billion a year for the next. We can
And
even
the government will just collect the tariff for
That's correct.
themselves
Yes,
to
but
finance the 10 billion.
Yes, mas simple
That's
po
okay
yan.
with me. I just
Okay.
want 10 billion a year
All right. So
for
yes.
the next 6 years.
Yes. We have no problems with that. In fact, that's a cleaner way of doing it. You
Yes,
don't have to,
yes.
you have only one fund to look at, and the source which is the general
Mr.
appropriation.
President, I have no problem with
All
that.
right, very good, ma'am. Can I have a 1 minute suspension, Ms. President?
Pardon?
1 minute suspension.
Yes.
Session is suspended for a minute.
Bakit?
Recess? Recess.
may lakad ka pa iba?
Hindi, nandun na.
Session is resumed.
Uy,
Yes.
George,
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Just to summarize the principles under Section 13 or the RISE Fund, as we have agreed before we went on the break. Firstly, there will be a 10 billion fund per year for a period of 6 years. It must be part of the National Expenditure Program to make sure that it is there. And it will be automatically and directly released to the implementing agencies. And then number 5, the allocation per province, agency,
and per town.
Will be made as an annex to the bill. And so on that basis, ma'am, Section 13 will be so amended.
Yes.
Because we don't need any more issues like enough collection from the tariff in the fund, or that it will be after we achieve rice competitiveness, because there is now a definite amount per year for a period of 10 years.
6 years.
6 years. Ayaw mo ba ng 10 years? Anyway, 6
We'll
years.
review after 6 years.
Okay.
Kailangan ba 10 years? 6 years lang. Yun ang gusto niya. Kasi kung pangit, time to subsidies. Baka hindi na maganda.
All right. On the farm mechanization, at 50% of the 10 billion, that means the farm mechanization fund will be roughly 5 billion
yes.
per year.
Yes. There will be 1,100 provinces, towns that will be given a machine, and if you divide, they will only be entitled to 5 million each. So, and we have a list of this machine, and I don't think 5 million will suffice in 1 year.
But this is in addition to the RICE program, which I assume would have also funding for mechanization.
It's not always the case.
Okay. Because this RICE fund is on top of the RICE program.
Yes, yes.
And therefore, I assume that the RICE program would also include
Yeah, but 5
would also
million,
include RICE as the mechanization.
5 billion is not a big amount
Yes.
for the mechanization.
All right. Anyway, that's anyway. It's subject. It's for 6
Because
years.
we studied the problem of farmers, why they are not competitive in terms of cost, and the number one problem is labor.
Yes.
So it's mechanization.
Now, we note that you have specified that that the machines to be procured shall be locally made, and after 5 years, 100% of all the machines all the farm machinery shall be locally made.
We noticed, Mr. President, that the PhilMec, although they make research on machine, they don't really encourage our local producers to produce the machine ourselves. So one of the intention of this mechanization is to give support to our local producer to produce our own local machine for our rice farmers.
Yes.
So in the first year, we will require them to allocate 40% for local producer, and it will go higher and higher until
Yes.
it's 100% by the 5th year.
So this is, let's say, for the first year, 40%
Yes.
of 5 billion.
Oh, yes.
Now, until the 5th year, all the 5 billion will
spent
be
for local.
local. Now, I have not checked this, but when I read this, comes to mind is this WTO compliant?
No,
ma'am?
no. It's our way. Because I have met so many foundry, and they can do the job, except that they are not being encouraged to do the machines.
No, what I'm just asking, ma'am, is have we, maybe after this, you can ask your staff if this does not run afoul with our commitments under the WTO because of the requirement that we source this from local sources. I am not saying that it does. I'm just asking your staff to review this.
NEDA is here, and they said there's no such
I'm
requirement.
sorry, ma'am?
We will not run afoul with WTO.
All right. Okay, just I will also do my
Research.
own research
Oh, yeah.
and find out if I have no objection to this, Mr. President. It's just that I am just asking whether or not it is compliant. If it is, no problem. If it is not, then we have to do something.
We are doing this so that the machines that will be used by the farmers will be affordable also.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
We understand fully. But should you not also provide for, what is the average farm lot of our rice farmers today?
1 hectare.
1 hectare, 1 hectare
Yeah,
and a half.
but we will be giving the machine as a shared facilities program of, let's say, LGU or farmer cooperative or farmers association. We don't give this to individuals.
Yes, that's a good system, but may I suggest that let us give it to farmers cooperatives and farmers association and avoid giving LGUs. Because inevitably,
We can indicate that the priority will be farmers cooperative and farmers association. But in case in a town there is none, then we have to give it to the LGUs.
only on that condition that there are no farmers
Yes,
cooperatives
yes.
and farmers
So we
associations.
will look for them, and if we cannot find one, then we have no choice but to give it to LGUs. So,
Now, how many farmer families are there, ma'am, or in the country?
we have 8 million farmers, yes, and 3.5 million are rice farmer,
Okay.
3.5 million are coconut farmers, and the rest are etc., etc. Coconut farmers and rice farmer comprise 90% of all our crop farmers in the Philippines.
So 3.5 million are rice farmers in the
Yes.
country. Would the sponsor have any problem or objection to our allocating a 4-piece type of program for our farmers on top of the 10 billion?
We have now a subsidy for rice with the DSWD in the amount of 31 billion.
31 billion.
Yes.
And
And
that
I was
is-
thinking that if we can indicate in the bill that finally this rice subsidy will be bought from the farmers and will be given to the CCT beneficiary in terms of rice, not in terms of money.
Yes, so this is 31 billion pesos.
Yes, yes.
You know,
And it's 4.5 million families at 600 per month, no? 600 per month.
Mr. President, this is a good program, except that we should think about how to execute.
No, we're willing to work hard.
If I can be allowed to finish, ma'am.
Okay.
We are saying that it's in form of rice.
Yes.
The logistical difficulties of distributing rice is something that we must consider. We may consider and study making this a cash payment, and they can use it to buy rice if they wish.
No, they're not buying rice.
What will they do? No, because, you know, if the
They're-
allocation, Mr. President, is 31 billion, and you use this to purchase rice, I do not know how much will be the overhead required to be able to distribute to 3.5 million farmers the rice subsidy, whereas if you use cash, maybe you will not spend more than 5% overhead, because if it's cash. If it's rice, then you really have to allocate, I don't know how much, maybe 30% for logistical support, and therefore the net only is so much. So I would really think that we should take a second look at this.
Mr. President,
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
In the CCT program of other countries, they do not distribute money. They distribute products. Like, for example, in Thailand, they feed 6 million children 200 ml of milk every day, and the government pays for it. Because of that, the dairy industry of Thailand grew from nothing. Now they're able to produce 70% of their dairy need. Nag-boom po ang dairy sa Thailand. In the Philippines, we only produce 1% of our dairy needs. And even in Brazil, what they distribute is vegetable to their people, the poor people, being bought from the vegetable farmers. So what they're doing in their CCT is they're helping the poor farmers and at the same time helping the poor citizen. I think when I talked about this with the governors and the co-op, they are willing to do the work for free if you buy from them, from their members. Like, we will just give us a chance to do this because this is the way they really help their farmers and their poor people. They do not give money, they give goods. And the cooperatives, they're willing to supply this. We will just have to pinpoint every province who will supply it para wala nang logistic nightmare. Like for example, if you are a cooperative of rice producer in Iloilo, then you will be the one to supply in Iloilo. We will pinpoint and we will match. So that give us a chance to do this because this will really help our farmers. If they are not competitive to imports, then we have a guaranteed market for them from the government. And this is the best subsidy I think we could give them without spending additional money because this 31 billion has been provided to DSWD.
Now, Mr. President, how much is the amount again, Mr. President?
31 billion.
31
It's 600 per family
31
to
billion.
4.5 million families.
600 per family per year. Per
Yes,
month.
7,200 a year times 4.5 million.
Now, and this is sourced in the General Appropriations Act. ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Now,
This is an additional subsidy. When we created CCT, unang budget niyan is 60. This has been added to the
All right.
CCT.
all right. I have, if the good sponsor feels that we should experiment on this and let's maybe review it afterwards, we have no
Yes.
basic problem with that. But just for the record, the other programs in other countries patterned, where we patterned our conditional cash transfer, namely Brazil, Chile, Mexico, cash is given. It's the Bolsa Familia, which is the program in Brazil, which is where these subsidies are given in cash. In any case,
Mr.
that's just-
President, we are giving cash also. This is an addition to the 1,500 in cash. This 600 rice subsidy.
there is another 1,500. ma'am.
Yes, yes. That was
San-
the original CCT. 1,500 per family for the 4.5 million families. Then they added this rice subsidy, which they gave in cash rather than giving in kind. So I thought that we should really give them in kind. But there is a 1,500 cash already.
So this is, all right, I'm sorry, I didn't understand, I didn't understand it the first time. So firstly, the 1,500 pesos per month
Yes,
to the poorest of the poor is under the 4-piece program.
yes.
And then
They
to
added.
to this 1,500, they added 600 pesos
A month.
a month for all covered by the 4-piece.
Rice subsidy. They call it rice
Subsidy, but not only to the rice farmers, but all those appearing in the National Housing Targeting Program.
Yes. But the problem of the rice farmer is not the rice. It's the market. Kasi remember, pag nag-liberalize ang importation of rice, makatalunin sila ng import. So, kung ma-assure sila na ang gobyerno bibili sa kanila, malaking bagay sa kanila yun.
All right, okay. So it's part of the DSWD program?
Yes.
No, okay.
So, are you agreeable, Mr. President, that we try it?
Yeah, well, right now it's existing.
Yeah, it's
it's
existing. We will
existing.
just give rice instead of money.
No, that is not-
And in the process, help our Filipino rice farmers.
In the first place, ma'am, that's a matter for the program of the DSWD.
No, we have been trying to influence the SWD to do that, but as you said, you think that will entail a lot of overhead.
Yes, yes.
But I'm telling you, the rice cooperatives are willing to do the work as long as we buy from them.
Well, Mr. President, that's a matter for DSWD, and I don't think we have to provide it in the bill that we are debating right now.
But if we will not provide it, they might not follow.
Well,
And you are asking me, how do we really help the farmers?
the four-piece program is basically a budget, a budget scheme. The four-piece program is not provided in any substantive law. The four-piece program is a program of the DSWD without, and the authority is the General Appropriations Act, not any substantive law. So that is why
But
the
it's really
conditions,
described there.
the conditions in the four-piece program is between the budget and the DSWD. So
Then we can make representation with the DSWD.
yes.
Because the name of that CCT is rice subsidy.
yes, yes, yes. So that's off. That is not, as I said, we're nothing here in the law would touch on that four-piece program. Yes, Mr. President, at this point, I think I have asked all the questions. We have no further questions. Now, we make a reservation that after we review the bill and as with the agreements indicated, we would like to see the amendments that will be proposed, and we reserve our right to ask questions on the amendments that will be presented by the committee. With that manifestation, Mr. President, we have finished and terminate our interpellation, and we can yield the floor to some other member of the chamber for their turn at the interpretation.
Thank
very
you,
much.
Mr. Minority Floor Leader, and thank you, Mr. President.
Session suspended for a minute.
Hi, thank you. Wala. Naayos ko na lahat yan.
Hindi na ako magtatanong.
Nasa si Mix? Si Mix talaga. Yung pantapos na, nawala pa. Ikaw na lang, ang majority. Sabi mo, period of amendment, period of interpellation, tapos na.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, I move to suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 1998.
No, it's not suspended. We're finished. The period of interpellation.
Could you rephrase, Majority Leader, could you rephrase the motion?
I withdraw, Mr. President.
Session is suspended for a minute.
Session suspended.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
My apologies. The ship for Southeast Asia delegates were there. They just wanted to have a picture with me. So, closer. So, Mr. President, with that, Mr. President. There you go, Mr. President. With that, we move to close the period of interpellation on Senate Bill number 1998. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none, motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. We move to suspend consideration on the said measure.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration on Senate Bill number 1477. I so move, Mr. President.
What is the title of the measure?
That's, 1 second, Mr. President. For amendments, it's for the period of amendment. It is the act promoting positive and nonviolent discipline of children, Mr. President. To sponsor, may we recognize Senator Risa Ontiveros, and to make proposed amendments, Senate President Vicente Soto III. Yeah,
Senator Risa.
parliamentary status, Mr. President, we're in the period of amendments.
Senator Risa is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And to amend the Senate President, Tito Soto is
Yes.
recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the distinguished lady of Akbayan accept some of our proposed amendments?
In fact, Mr. President, based on the prior discussions, I'm prepared to accept all of the amendments that the good Senate President will propose, and I will make it of record.
Thank you very much. This will be very few, but I need to explain so that it will be placed into the records. Firstly, on page 3, lines 10 to 11, on the definition of corporal punishment, I move to delete the phrase, or I suggest that as an amendment, delete the phrase, an adult or by another child who has been given or has assumed authority or responsibility for punishment or discipline, and replace it with persons enumerated in paragraph G of this section and section 5 of this act.
Accepted, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I need, well, just for the record, I wanted to put in the rationale. This is to harmonize the provisions of the bill that adhere to Article 216 of the Family Code of the Philippines. All right, thank you. Thank you for that, Mr. President. It's been accepted.
Yes, is there any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Thank you. Next, Section 6 on penalties, page 8. I move to delete lines 3 to 14 and replace it with the following. The following citation system shall apply to persons violating this act.
Accepted, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. And finally, delete the whole Section 9 entitled Interventions for a Parent Who is an Offender. The rationale, Mr. President, is that the provision is redundant as the parent offender is already included in Section 7 of the bill, as the interventions mentioned therein will cover all offenders. So the interventions mentioned in Section 7 are same with interventions stated in Section 9 of the measure, Mr. President.
Accepted, Mr. President. As explained.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. That concludes my proposed amendments. I wish to thank the distinguished lady for accepting our amendments. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, and to the good Senate President.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'd like to ask the sponsor if she has any more amendments.
No more amendments, Mr. President, good Majority Leader.
There being no amendments, Mr. President, I move that we close the period of amendments.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we approve on second reading Senate Bill number 1477.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
And congratulations to
Thank
the
you so
sponsor.
much, Mr. President.
Salamat, guys. Mr. President, I move to suspend consideration of the measure.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration on the SSS measure. Where is that?
Senate Bill 1753.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President, for the sponsor reminding me of the bill. We resume consideration on Senate Bill number 1753. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
It's in the period of amendments, Mr. President. I'm sorry. No, we're in the period of amendments. We're in the period of amendments. I'm just informing the minority leader, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, we move to resume consideration and recognize Senator Richard Gordon as the sponsor, and to make amendments, or to propose amendments, rather, Senator Ralph Recto. I so move.
Wala na. Mr. President,
I believe Senator Ralph Recto gave the list to Senator Gordon, so Senator Gordon will just read it on the record.
I see. So Senator Gordon is recognized. This is for Senate Bill
Number 1753, sir.
1753.
The SSSS bill.
this is Ace.
East.
Mr. President, last week I manifested that I would introduce an amendment by substitution on Senate Bill number 1753, copies of which were submitted to the Secretary this afternoon for reproduction and distribution to the members of the Senate. With my thanks to Senator Dillon and Senator Recto, all their amendments have been incorporated in the bill, Mr. President. Mr. President, I now move to delete all the text from under the enacting clause of Senate Bill number 1753 until the last page thereof, and replace it with the text of my amendment by substitution as earlier submitted and as amended by the distinguished senators that I mentioned.
Any objections? Before we act on the measure, maybe
Not an objection, Mr. President. Our colleagues would like just to see a clean copy of the substitute bill, if possible, Mr. President. But not
all
an
right.
objection.
In that case, we suspend the session for a few minutes. May we ask the Secretariat to furnish
I'm
everyone
sorry, I
a
thought
copy?
they gave it to you. I'm sorry. Wala pa? Pwede nyo mabigyan.
O distribute mo lang.
Sabi nyo binigay na. Pero matapos ito. That's a good amendment. Very good amendment.
Ngayon lang binigay. Sabihin mo, ngayon lang binigay. Kailan binigay?
May clean copy na kayo? You got a clean copy of it?
After you, ikaw. After them, ikaw. Hindi, by substitution lang naman sa kanya. Mabilis lang yung kanina. Okay.
Housing. Amendment na kasi. Tama naman, para they have more.
Mr. President, ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
While we're waiting for the clean copy, may we just suspend the consideration of the said measure for just 5 minutes while they're reproducing it so that we can take up other matters? I so move, Mr. President.
All right, any objection? Consideration of the measure is suspended.
Mr. President,
President,
before we go on,
Sorry.
I just want to apologize to the my colleagues, our colleagues here. I thought it had already been printed, and as usual, it's my fault, Mr. President, so I apologize. At the same time, Mr. President, I'd like to state here that I was just told that today is the 50th anniversary, death anniversary of the late Don Claro Recto, our senator par excellence here. And so we just want to remember her in our prayers and certainly make sure that we emulate the great skills of the late Senator Recto in his service to the Senate, which is certainly salutary and magnificent. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
That's the original recto, Your Honor. Of course, the one that's sitting with us today is equally as brilliant. Mr. President, with the permission of the body, I move that we proceed with the Senate President's designation of the Senate conferees to the Bicameral Conference Committee on the disagreeing provisions of Senate Bill number 2023 and House Bill number 7442. This is the special protection of children in situations of armed conflict.
We hereby designate Senator Risa Ontiveros as chairperson, and members are Legarda, Ejercito, Po, and Pangilinan on the part of the minority. This is for the disagreeing provisions of Senate Bill 2023 and House Bill 7442, the special protection of children in situations of armed conflict. So designated.
Thank you, Mr. President. While we're awaiting the, wala pa? Okay, while we're awaiting the SSS clean copy amendments, or amendments with clean copy of the amendments, rather, I move that we resume consideration on Senate Bill number 1578. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved.
The statuses were in the period of amendments, Mr. President. May we recognize the sponsor, Senator J.V. Ejercito, and to propose amendments, I believe. Hindi ka muna mag-amend.
It says here Senator Recto and Senator Drilon.
I believe Senator Recto has
withdrawn.
already given his amendments to the
Right.
to the sponsor, and Senator Drilon will propose amendments. May we recognize our minority floor leader, sir.
Senator Ejercito is recognized to continue sponsoring the measure, and the minority leader, Senator Frank Drilon, to introduce amendments.
Mr. President, yes, our staff and the staff of Senator Ejercito met earlier this afternoon and came up with a number of amendments. We just received these today, just 2 hours ago, because we were busy preparing for the interpellation on the rice tariffication bill. May we request that we suspend consideration of the measure and take it up again tomorrow to allow this representation to study the amendments that were proposed to us, Mr. President. Please.
All right, Majority Leader.
So with that, Mr. President, we will suspend consideration of the said measure.
Any objection? There being none, consideration of Senate Bill 1578 is suspended.
Senator Trillanes.
We have just received a copy already of the SSS, but it will take some time for the other members to review. So let's take up another.
Yes, Mr. President, we're just looking for one of the sponsors, Senator Sonny Trillanes. So maybe we can, may I ask for a 1-minute suspension, Mr. President, until the
Session is
sponsor would
suspended.
arrive.
Yung parang ano, receipt. Newly received. Okay na.
Ready to resume, Mr. President?
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, would like to resume consideration of Senate Bill 1971, Mr. President. I so move.
1971, any objection? Chair hears none, motion is approved.
This is the act providing special protection of children's passengers, or child passengers rather, in motor vehicles. The parliamentary status, Mr. President, is that we are in the period of interpellation. No other colleagues had signified to interpellate the measure, Mr. President. We move to close the period of interpellation. I so move, Mr. President.
Okay. So the motion is to
Close the period of interpellation.
close the
sir.
period of interpellation. Any objection? Chair hears none, motion is approved.
No, this is child passenger seats. Yeah. Mr. President, we move
Child
to
seats,
open the
yes.
period of amendments.
Any objection? Chair hears none, period of amendment is now open.
Mr. President, I move that we recognize the sponsor, Senator Joseph Victor Ejercito.
Senator Joseph Victor
propose
Ejercito
the
is
amendments.
recognized to propose the amendments. May we know from Senator J.B. Ejercito if he is already in receipt of the amendments that the Senate President is proposing?
Yes, Mr. President. In fact, most of those I will be proposing in these amendments. Most of these came from you.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor. We'll place that on record.
Yes, we start, Mr. President, on page 2, line 26, under section 4. After the word while, insert the phrase, the engine is running or.
Any objection? There being none, amendment is approved.
And on the same page, line 27, after the word highway, insert the phrase, unless the child is at least 150 centimeters or 59 inches in height and is properly secured using the regular seat belt. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none, amendment is approved.
On page 2, line 46, replace the word A after the phrase, allowed to sit in, with V. And on the same page, line 46, after the word vehicle, insert the phrase, with a running engine or while such child is being transported on any road, street, or highway. And on the same page, lines 46 to 47.
Let's take it one at a time.
Okay,
Senator
I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none, amendment is approved.
And on the same page, line 46 to 47, replace the phrase, is at least 150 centimeters or 59 inches in height and capable to properly fit in, with the phrase, meets the height requirement set forth in section 4 of this act and is properly secured using. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none, amendment is approved.
On page 3, line 15, under section 6, insert a new paragraph. The use of child restraint system acquired prior to the effectivity of this act shall be allowed, provided that such device is not expired. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none, amendment is approved.
And on page 4, line 46, under section 12, delete the phrase, issuing rules and regulations requiring the use of child restraint systems, and replace it with prescribing safety measures that will prevent traffic-related deaths and injuries among infants and children transported. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none, amendment is approved.
And on the same page, line 50, delete the phrase, comma, after study, is mandated to adopt safety measures and issue regulations for the safe and secure transportation of children in such vehicles in accordance with standards set forth in this act, provided that the study shall be conducted, and replace it with, shall determine, promote, and adopt evidence-based measures for the safe and secure transportation of children in public motor vehicles. I so move, Mr. President.
You will no longer impose an effectivity date? You have a period after vehicles?
Mr. President, we will still retain the 1 year from the effectivity of this act.
All right.
It was not deleted, Mr. President.
All right. Any objection? Chair is none. Amendment is approved.
That's all, Mr. President, for the individual and committee amendment.
Majority Leader?
Mr. President, I move that we close the period of amendments.
Any objection? There being none, the period of committee amendments or the period of amendments is hereby closed.
Mr. President, we move to approve on second reading Senate Bill number 1971. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Senate Bill 1971 is approved on second reading.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend consideration of the measure.
Consideration of the measure is hereby suspended.
Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration.
Before you do that, may we ask Senator Ejercito if he can include the presiding officer as a co-author of the measure, Mr. President?
Well, gladly, Mr. President, that will be an honor to have you as the co-author of this measure.
Yes, and possibly myself also, Mr. President. Being a member of the Red Cross, this has also been an advocacy of ours with Senator Gordon on child safety.
Yes, yes.
And also Senator Gordon, if possible, Mr. President.
All right.
And Senator Recto and members that are here, if the minority leader would agree, as him as well as co-author, Senator Trillanes, and Senator Risa, was here earlier.
We place that on record.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move to resume consideration on the SSS measure, Senate Bill number 1753. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move to recognize once again Senator Richard Gordon to propose amendments.
Senator Gordon is recognized.
Mr. President, with the advice of Senator Dillon, Senate President Dillon, I'd like to say that there's one amendment that we'd like, there are several amendments that we'd like to make on the bill, Your Honor. Number one is, inasmuch as this is a substitute bill in its entirety, in effect, it takes the form of a new law. On the title itself, it will no longer be further amending, but repealing for the purpose of Public Act 1161 as amended by the Public Act number 8282, otherwise known as the Social Security Act, Mr. President. I submit, Your Honor.
Well, yes, we will take up the title later, Mr. President. Yes.
Maybe we, the good sponsor, may wish to take up the amendment to the title as a last amendment.
Yes, correct. As
Your Honor, I'm always using to save the last, the first for last. Mr. President. But I will follow the advice, Your Honor. Now, the other amendments are as follows, Mr. President. On Section 1, on the page that has just been given to us, we will delete that, Mr. President, and replace it with the second paragraph thereof, which is Section 1 short title. Because as this has already been repealed, it will now read Section 1, Republic Act 1161 as amended, otherwise known as Social Security Law of 1997, is hereby further amended to as follows. We will delete that, and in place of that, it will be Section 1 short title. This act shall be known as the Social Security Act of 2018. We submit, Your Honor.
We've, the session is suspended.
Ina-amend na namin eh. And you need to say,
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
All right, session is resumed. Now, before the break, the parliamentary status is that Senator Gordon has submitted a substitute bill, and all members of the Senate were given copies already, distributed copies.
That's
So
correct,
let
Mr.
us now place it on the floor. What do we do now, Mr. Majority Leader?
Mr. President, I move that we move amendment by substitution, wherein the substitute bill of Senator Gordon will be accepted by the body and will be the working draft.
That's correct, Your Honor. I could
Mr.
not have
President, the
said it
minority
any
floor
better.
leader would like to be recognized.
The body, upon motion of the sponsor, should now accept the amendment by substitution.
Yes.
And then after that, any individual senator who would wish to propose amendments should
Individual
propose
amendments.
it to
That's
the
correct.
sponsor.
Based
So
on the
the
working
first step
draft.
is to adopt
Yes.
Yes, Mr. President.
substitute bill.
So what does the Senator Gordon say?
Well, I was going to move, Your Honor, that this be, as suggested by our colleagues, including, if I read Senator Delong correctly, as the working draft.
Yes.
All right.
So that the individual amendments can be brought in, and then we can finally approve it on second reading. after
Therefore,
they have all of it.
automatically it becomes a substitute bill.
Yes.
Any objection?
With the permission of the body.
With the permission of the chamber, with the consent of the chamber, any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now,
We're now in the period of amendments. Senator Gordon is recognized.
having said that, and I withdraw the previous amendment on the title, which will reserve for last, as suggested, I will now go to Section 1 on line 1. We will remove that entire Section 1, starting with Republic Act number 1161 as amended, otherwise known as the Social Security Law of 1997, is hereby further amended to read as follows. We will remove that entire line on line 1 and 2 and substitute it with Section 1 short title, this act shall be known as the Social Security Act of 2018, and so forth and so on. And this will become line 1 and 2, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, amendment is approved.
And then we will have the last page. On the last page of the working draft, Mr. President, on the matter of Section 2, I think Section 1.
Last page of?
Of the working draft, Your Honor. Hindi ito.
What page is that then? Page
Page
54.
53.
Page 54.
Before the last one. Ano yung sumunod dyan? At yung Section 1 ito kagad eh. And then, Section 31. Yeah, please. Yes, Mr. President, I'm sorry. It should really be page 54, Your Honor, my mistake. It says there's Section 2 separability clause. That will now become Section 32, Mr. President. Section 2 will become line 8 all the way to 10 will now become Section 32, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
And then Section 3 will become Section 33, Mr. President, repealing clause from line 11 to 14. This becomes a repealing clause, Mr. President. The
Section
numbering is
33.
being corrected.
All right, any objection? Amendment is approved.
And finally, Section 4 of line 15 and 16 shall become Section 34, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Amendment is approved.
That is it, Mr. President. There are no other amendments. I think Senator Dillon has a...
Yes, before the title, as the minority leader is recognized.
Yes, with the permission of the chamber. First, may we inquire from the majority leader whether there is need to reflect in the record of the Senate and in the journal the fact of the substitute bill? Because from what I have witnessed, right now, the substitute bill has not been read into the record. I can stand corrected. Just,
It's as if it's read into the record, Mr. President. The substitute bill. it is as if read
Well-
into the record.
Technically, it will be spread into the records, and indeed, it's a very valid question, but
Yes.
when we approved the substitute bill, precisely, we made mention of the fact that it had the consent of the chamber.
Yes.
Now, the entire bill will be spread into the journal.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Just, now, as an omnibus amendment, all the open quotes starting with line 3 on page 1 up to page 53, the open quote on line 22 should be deleted, sir. Yeah, I know.
What is the effect?
Sorry?
What is the effect of the deletion?
Well, the quotation on, let's say, on page 1, line 3, before section 1, is on the premise that we are still working on Republic Act 1161 as the bill that would be signed into law.
Therefore, there is no need for a quotation.
Therefore, there is
All
no
right,
need for
so the
quotation.
first motion is to delete all the quotations.
That's correct, sir.
All right, any objection? Chair hears none, amendment is approved.
On line 11 on page 54, on the repealing clause, we propose the following amendment after the word clause. Republic Act number 1161 and Republic Act 8282 and all other laws,
Inconsistent.
comma, etc.
Etc. What does the sponsor say?
I accept, Your Honor.
Accepted. Any objection? The chair hears none, amendment is approved.
So we now go to the title, Mr. President.
Yes, the sponsor?
Your Honor, I just want to make sure that we reflect the proper, because we removed that's transitory provisions. So this will now become, page 53 will now, the next number, section 2 will now become section 31. Is
That's
that-
correct, sir, yes.
Yes, Your Honor. So
We did
section
not
31.
amend that. We just pointed out that in the repealing clause, for example, that in the repealing clause, we specify Republic Act 1161 and Republic Act 8282.
Yes. The renumbering that you have made earlier, Mr. Sponsor, the honorable sponsor, is not touched.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Yes.
So on the
So
title,
the
Mr.
title,
President,
maybe he'll the sponsor for the title?
On the title, Your Honor, all references to the previous bills will be removed, and it will be as if it is the original bill now, Your Honor.
So how does it read now?
An act rationalizing and expanding the powers and duties of the Social Security Commission to ensure the long-term viability of the Social Security system,
repealing.
repealing for the purpose of Republic Act number 1161 as amended by Republic Act number 8282, otherwise known as the Social,
Security Act.
and this shall now be known as the Social Security Act of 2018.
No, that is the short title, sir.
No,
Maybe we
otherwise
can just
known as
stop, Mr. President, with the indulgence of the good sponsor. We can just replace further amending in the title to repealing and let the rest of the sentence remain. And as already amended, the first section on line 3 will say section 1, short title, the act shall be known
Yes.
as the Social Security Act of 2018. In other words, this is the short title. The long title is the one found at the title of the bill itself.
At the top?
Yes, at the
But
top.
removing further amending
Yes,
by repealing.
we replace it with
We replaced
repealing.
it, but
Repealing,
repealing.
Your Honor.
Repealing na. Any objection?
We accept, Your Honor.
Of course, it came from you.
It was with the able support of my good friend Secretary Duran.
Indeed.
I have to accept.
Indeed.
Yes,
Any
sir.
objection? Chair is done. Amendment is approved.
Thank you. We have no other
Thank you.
amendments, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. President. With that, we move to close the period of amendments on Senate Bill number 1753. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair is none. The period of amendment is closed.
With my thanks, Your Honor, to all the senators who helped me, particularly Senator Duran and Senator Recto, who really dramatically improved the bill, and of course,
Yes.
with the able leadership. Ah.
Hindi ko pa na-approve on
Sandali, sinasabi ko lang muna ito. Bakit ba ginugulo niyo ako? I just wanted to give credit where credit is due, Your Honor.
All right.
And I salute them for their help.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I move, with that, we move to approve on second reading Senate Bill number 1753. I so move.
Any objection? The chair hears none. Senate Bill 1753 is approved on second reading.
Congratulations, sir, in order to Senator Gordon and to all those who assisted him, particularly the minority floor leader and the President, Senate President Pro Tem. Thank you very
The great
much.
B from Batangas, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
The
Whose grandfather is celebrating his birthday today.
Mr. President, may I
Death
also add,
anniversary, rather.
may I also add that I'd like to thank also the Social Security folks
Yes.
here who patiently worked with us here, along with Senator Duran, Senator Recto, and my staff as well. They were really very, very patient and were really very accepting. They really accepted the very good points that were raised by the senators. So this is really, truly a Senate bill, Your Honor.
Thank
With
you.
that, Mr. President, we move to suspend consideration of the said measure.
Consideration of the measure is hereby suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration on Senate Bill number 1917 under Committee Report number 477. I so move.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
This is an act granting survivorship benefits to the children of deceased retired members of different services, constitutional offices, Mr. President. I move that we recognize Senator Sonny Trillanes. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Sonny Trillanes is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, on the part of the majority, no members have signified their intent to interpolate the measure, Mr. President. And I believe we have also the consent on the part of the minority. With that, with the permission of the sponsor, we move to close the period of interpellation. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Period of interpellation is closed.
Mr. President, I move that we approve, I move that we open the period of amendments. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Period of amendment is open.
We'd like to ask the sponsor if there are amendments to the measure.
There are no committee and individual amendments.
With that, Mr. President, we move to close the period of committee and individual amendments.
Any objection? There being none, period of amendments closed.
Mr. President, I move to approve on second reading Senate Bill number 1917. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Senate Bill 1917 is approved in second reading.
Mr. President, I move to suspend consideration of the same.
Suspend the consideration of the measure is suspended.
Congratulations are in order to the sponsor.
Thank you.
May I ask for a 1-minute suspension?
Session is suspended.
Wala na yata tayo titake up. You are done. Thank you. We're done. What else do we take up? Wala na. We're done. Thank you, boss. We're done today. We're done for the day. He's happy. That's part of the leadership meeting we're having. Ay, boss, may ka ba leadership meeting? When are you? Ready to resume, Mr. President. Ready to resume.
Session is resumed.
Thank you, Mr. President. With no other matters to take up today, we move to adjourn session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Wednesday, October 3, 2018. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, session is adjourned until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Wednesday, October 3, 2018.